Okay, we're about halfway there. This is the second part of Module 2, Lab 2, Create and Manage Presentations. And it's important again that you watch this video, and if you follow along as I start to add content and then save the presentation as lab number 2, you can submit it to the Dropbox and you will have met all requirements for this module. Other than the reading, etc., and the discussions. And so we were taking a look at the user interface for PowerPoint, and we had inserted 2 slides. This first slide and its layout. What kind of layout is that? Well, this first slide by default in most presentations is called the title slide. And if we look here on the Home tab at the themes, we can see that we're using a title slide. If we click the drop down button here, if we select slide 2, then what we're doing when we select slide 2 is we're working in the navigation pane. So this area here is called the navigation pane, and it's telling us that we're looking at slide 2 of 2. And the layout for this pane is title and content. So you can see that PowerPoint is based on these templates and layouts that are built into the themes. So if we click on slide 1, what we see is in this area is our slide and content area, and this area that is within the confines of the border of the white area of the slide is what will be displayed if we're viewing the presentation in the slideshow mode, actually doing our presentation. This area here, this gray area, I call it the pasteboard. And generally it's an area in most design software you can actually place elements like pictures and shapes and text boxes outside of this area. Like if you wanted to have a fancy intro with an animation, let's say you're doing an animation on the benefits of electric cars. Maybe you have an animation where you open your slide and you animate a little Tesla driving right through your presentation, and you could start it out here in this area and then animate it so that it slides right through your presentation. It'd be a nice catchy intro. So here we actually have the area where we'll edit the slide, and in Windows you might have a scroll bar here depending on the size of the slide. As you start to resize the slide, the size of the window that is, you can see you get these scroll bars. And this monitor's got a pretty high resolution, and so we don't see the scroll bars yet. And then down here are the last bit of tools that are part of the PowerPoint interface. You can enable the notes section and type notes, and this is where a lot of people commonly place what they call speaker notes. So this is where you want to type, and you can type speaker notes, go here. And what's in there won't be visible to the folks that are looking at your presentation, but it will be visible if you print the presentation and the speaker notes, and or when you are viewing the presentation from the presenter view. You can also add comments. This is another way to add comments to the slide. Right now, by default, we're viewing PowerPoint in what's called the normal view, and that view includes thumbnails on the left side of the window, which is in the navigation pane, and then the notes pane at the bottom, the content pane, which is here, etc. And if we wanted to rearrange our slides or look at all of the slides, some presentations literally you might have 20 or 30 slides or more, you can go to the sorter view. And what's nice about the sorter view is you see thumbnails for each of your slides, and you can click And if you wanted to, you could rearrange them, although that's not logical right now because we want this one slide to be the title slide. So you just simply click and you can drag and you can rearrange them in any order. And you see the little insertion bar that shows you where the slide will be dropped. Down here is the reading view, which we're not going to do right now. I'll give you a preview of that once we put some content here. And then the slideshow view. Each of these two, you'll get plenty of time to view them. Let's go back to the normal view. And the current slide is highlighted with this red border. If we want to zoom in, we can zoom in and out using this slider back and forth. So we can zoom into content, which is really useful depending on what you're editing. Like if you're working and creating complex shapes, you might want to zoom in and out, or you can type it in manually, or you can set it to fit the resolution that you're working with, or type it manually, like set it to 100%. And so a good option when you're working on a monitor, you don't know what the best fit is to just select fit. And then this button allows you to maximize the PowerPoint window so it fills the entire screen monitor. And so that's pretty much the layout, the general layout of PowerPoint. For now, let's do this. Let's go ahead and I want you to select File and then Save. Now we're not going to save as, we're going to save. What's the difference between save and save as? Well, if we saved this presentation and then let's say we made some edits based on comments that people may have provided us, then we would save as presentation X, maybe version 2. And that's an example of when you use save versus save as. But since this is the first time that we're going to save it, we're going to select save. And then what I want you to do, I'm on the Mac, but if you're on the PC, go ahead, save it on your desktop for now, because you know what use is the desktop other than saving stuff, like the desktop at home. And what I want you to do is name this presentation for the lab that you'll be completing using your first name. So my first name is Curtis, underscore last name Pembroke, underscore Lab2, and then save it. And you're going to take this presentation when we're done in a few minutes here and put it in the Dropbox. And so, you know, all these features and navigating in PowerPoint doesn't help much unless you actually add some content. So let's start adding content to this presentation, and we might come back to it a little bit later. You know, I talked about the process of developing a presentation and some of the research you'll do up front. You also need to think about some basic design principles, and we're going to come back to these. We're going to start here and we're going to come back to these design principles along the way over the next couple of weeks. But overall, I want to basically talk about design for non-designers. It all boils down to a basic principle: crap. You know, and I don't want to be politically correct or anything, but yeah, designing a good presentation is really all about crap. Crap. And under the subtitle, let's imagine we're doing a presentation on crap, and our subtitle will say Design Principles for Non-Designers. And we could even press enter and notice this text box. What's the alignment on this text box? This is a text box. We can see that it has these anchor points, and then we see the cursor blinking just like we would in Microsoft Word. And we can see that this text is center aligned because if we look on the home button, you know, under this group here, we can see that the center align button is selected. If we click left align, it aligns the current line that we're on. So if we wanted to left align this, we could click and drag and left align, but we want to keep it center aligned. Right now, What's the size of this font, this acronym, which stands for contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity, CAP. The CAP design acronym helps us remember basic design principles when we're designing our PowerPoint presentations. Well, right now we can see that it is using the default font for headings that you'll see, which is a Microsoft font. I was trying to pronounce Calibri, Light, and Font, and it's 60 point right now. It isn't formatted as bold, and we might want to make that a little bit bigger because this is going to be our title slide, and we want this to get the attention of our viewers. Imagine if we selected size and we made this 80 point. Well, that's pretty big, right? Well, we can go ahead and let's pump it up to 88. And so that's going to stand out in our slide when people see it. On the next line, we can click on this text box here, design principles for, and let's type by Curtis Pembroke. You just type your name, or you can say, if you want to really be formal, you can say presenter. I wish I could spell. I studied engineering, not spelling. So, presenter Curtis Pembroke. And then go ahead and save your work. How do you save your work? Well, you can click the save button here and it automatically save it. You can turn on auto save, but I kind of avoid that because what Microsoft will do is trick you into saving to the cloud, Microsoft, the Office cloud and Office 365, and that it will occasionally try to do that, and I leave it off because I like to save everything locally and then back it up to the cloud. And so we've created our title slide right now. It's pretty boring and blank, but we know that we're working with the CAP principle, which is contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. And we're going to use this PowerPoint slide in the next lab and build it out and make it look a little bit more fancy. But what I want you to do is click on slide 2, and this slide is going to cover the first letter in the acronym CAP, which is contrast. And we'll add content here, and we can see that we clicked in this text box, and this is a heading. This is a header. People use headers to organize information, so they'll look at the title of this header in the presentation and they'll know that this is the topic that you're covering, right? And if we wanted to add some information in this text box that helps describe what we mean by contrast, we can click right here in the text box, and this text box is a bulleted list. Don't worry about all these buttons just yet, but let's go ahead and click in the text box. And then what is contrast? Well, contrast is the idea that unique elements should stand apart from one another. And we'll talk about what that means visually when we continue building out this presentation through the next few labs. And so contrast. The next letter in the acronym stands for repetition. How do I insert a new slide? Well, I can go here to this group here on the Home tab and select New Slide, and it just pops it right in there. Or I can select a specific layout. For now, we're going to work with title and content, and we need 3 more letters, so let's insert 3 more slides. And click on each slide here in the navigation pane, and let's go ahead and call this slide repetition. And we're not going to add any content. We're going to add content as we click through these guys. Let's name this one proximity. And then we're going to name this one alignment. And we'll go ahead and save our work. And go ahead and click on repetition, and let's go to this next bullet. And what is a good explanation of repetition? Well, repetition is the concept that repeated elements provide the audience with a sense of cohesiveness in the design and presentation. Now, thank goodness for spell check, because it's telling me that I have mistyped and that this is the correct spelling. So again, I studied engineering, not spelling. And what is proximity? Well, proximity basically says that like elements should be grouped together in a manner that supports organization and relationships, or let's say organization and related content. Kind of making this up on the fly. Let's go ahead and save our work. And then the last one is alignment. And so again, alignment adds cohesiveness to the presentation and helps readers chunk, sort, and consume. Chunk, sort, and should I say rank content. So when we look at a page, you're learning PowerPoint, but you're also learning a little bit about CAP here. When we look at a page, the first thing we do if we're a North American reader is we follow a pattern of reading. We read in a Z pattern. So when we use alignment and we have good alignment, then elements that are related to one another are aligned in such a way that they support that Z pattern and they show some structure and cohesiveness in our presentation. So go ahead and save your work. Well, there's a little bit of a problem in our presentation in the order of our slides. Do you see it? Well, this presentation is all about CAP, right? But the order of our slides are content, repetition, proximity, and alignment. And it is CRPA, right? And we can see that a little bit better if we go to the slide sorter view. And if we zoom in, we can really see that. And this is a good example of in the sorters view, we might want to click on this one, and let's fix that so the slides are in the correct order. Well, now they are. Whoops, we'll go backwards. There it is. Boom. Okay, I'm dyslexic, but it worked. Okay, if we want to look at this in the reading pane, this gives us an example of what the slide looks like in the reading pane. And if we wanted to view it in the slideshow mode, we could do that, but it would take up the whole screen, and we'll preview that a little bit later. How do we get back to the normal view? Well, there are a couple of ways. The old-fashioned way is we can go to View on the menu bar and select Normal. Or if we're in this sorter view, we can go back and we can just click here and go to the normal view. So go ahead and save your work. And for now, we're going to stop with this plain Jane presentation, because in the next module, we're going to look at adding some nice colors and fonts and theme and appropriate theme to this presentation. We might even play a little bit with shapes so that we can illustrate these concepts visually. And so I think you're going to like it. But for now, save this presentation. So what have we done today? We've taken a look over these two videos at creating a presentation. We know that there are three ways we can create a presentation. We can create a presentation, a blank presentation. We can create a presentation from a template, from content template, if in PowerPoint, and or from Microsoft Office 365's website. We know that the ribbon has a variety of different options, and that the ribbons, each tab on the ribbon has a specific purpose in helping us to accomplish the creation of our presentation. And we know how to see the organization and structure of our slides in the navigation pane, and to use the different views in PowerPoint, like the sorter view, to take a high-level view of our slides should we want to rearrange the order or what have you. And you're going to do that a lot. You might find as you're building a presentation that, this is just not working, so I want to switch things around. So that summarizes the basic creation and managing of presentations. Go ahead and save this presentation, or you can create your own high-level presentation like this. Please don't dress it up. I know a lot of you probably know enough about PowerPoint to do that. It's not going to impress me, or should I say there's no need to impress me right now. I just want to see that you get the basics. Trust me, we're going to make this thing look a whole lot prettier in the coming weeks. But go ahead and save this lab, submit it to the Dropbox. Make sure you can find it, because you're going to use it again in another lab. Also, make sure that you complete the reading in the textbook, and that you actually complete the exercise in the back of the book to reinforce what you've learned here. Although you don't have to submit what you accomplish through the reading. Just submit what we've done together in these last two videos to the Dropbox and Canvas. If you have any questions, post your questions in the questions forum. And I will see you in the next module.